Αγαπητοί φίλοι του Κιθαρολόγιου, χαίρετε. Μια πολύ σημαντική συνέντευξη για το κανάλι μας. Το περίφημο Volterra Project Trio, που αποτελείται από την Antigoni, τον Λούκα και τον Maarten, είναι κοντά μας. Dear friends, welcome to Kitharologio YouTube channel. Αγαπητοί φίλοι, θα μιλώ ελληνικά και η Antigoni θα βοηθάει στη μετάφραση. Antigoni, θα ήθελες να μας παρουσιάσεις λίγο ξεχωριστά καθέναν από το τρίο?
Φυσικά. Καταρχήν, χαίρετε σε όλους. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, Γιώργο, για
You can
την
speak English
πρόσκληση.
if you
Με
like.
μεγάλη χαρά. Α, ναι.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, I was just saying that I was thanking you for the invitation. It is a great pleasure to be back with you, discussing everything that we all love, our guitar and guitar music and collaborations, everything we absolutely adore. And with me this time, I have two wonderful musicians and dear friends and dear colleagues, Luca Isolani on my left and Maarten Vandenbemden on my right. Yeah. So I will not take the lead in telling everyone who they are. I think I will just pass the word to them. I will only say that Luca comes from Napoli and he's the Italian of the group, while Maarten comes from Belgium and he's the Belgian of the group. And we're all based in Brussels. So I pass the word, starting maybe from Luca.
Yeah.
Hello, Luca.
Yeah, I come from Napoli, so it's hello. Uh, as I was telling, I come from Napoli, so it's a city with a huge musical tradition, and I have the guitar in my hand since I was 12, probably. And one of the reasons why I started is really to look for, let's say, all the poetry that I would listen when I was a kid into the songs that my grandmothers would sing, and to find the same poetry while playing the classical guitar. So it all started with Tarrega studies, and then it evolved until let's say, big pieces that we play with the Volterra Project Trio. And thanks for the invitation, and I'm very glad to be part of this interview.
It's an honor
And
for
hello, I'm
us.
Maarten.
Hello, Maarten.
Hi. I'm Maarten. It's like Antigoni said, I'm from Belgium. I have a similar story to Luca. I started also very young with the guitar. My father is a guitar teacher who really dedicated his life to passing music knowledge, and he wanted to give this gift that he considered the most beautiful gift he could give his sons. So he passed it to both me and my brother, of playing the classical guitar, of having music as a part of our lives. And then unexpectedly that led me many years later to the class of Antigoni, because both Luca and me studied with her in the Royal Conservatory of Brussels, where now we are also both teaching. So it's like a lot of circles have been forming. Within the trio, I do most of the arrangement work, and it's something that I'm very passionate about this process of translation. And it's also a big part of what I teach at the Royal Conservatory. So with the guitar studio of Antigoni, I teach the applied harmony class. So we dive into the grammar of music, and we try to be creative with that, always moving further and further away from the classical take on what a score can be, because I come from a very classical background. If I think of it, I've never touched an electric guitar in my life. And my first CD was Mozart. At 11 years old, I bought the complete works of Mozart, and I was very proud of that. So that is where I come from, and that's the bridge that I put into the classical guitar, which is always a bit of a non-classical instrument in a way. So it adds a different dimension there.
Very good. Αντιγόνη, είσαστε από τρεις αρκετά διαφορετικές χώρες. Θα μπορούσαμε να πούμε ότι εμείς οι Έλληνες μοιάζουμε με τους Ναπολιτάνους. Αυτό θα μπορούσαμε να το πούμε. Ξέρω ότι ζεις πολλά χρόνια και εργάζεσαι και διαπρέπεις στο εξωτερικό. Αλλά πριν ξεκινήσουμε έτσι τις ερωτήσεις, πώς υπήρξε αυτή η ζεύξη χαρακτήρων, ιδιοσυγκρασίας μεταξύ των τριών τόσο διαφορετικών ανθρώπων?
Μου φαίνεται ότι πρέπει να το μεταφράσω λίγο
Ναι, ναι,
για
ναι,
να απαντήσω να ξέρουμε.
Okay.
So he says that we're coming from three completely different backgrounds, and even though I have been living and working in the abroad for many, many years, he's wondering how did the collaboration became and how the harmony and the syntonia of our work came to be about. Well, I think that I think that music doesn't discriminate. Music does not criticize. So music is a language, and the more diverse the people that they speak it are, the better the result is. So I think that our differences actually are also our strengths. And I believe that in general in life, diversity is a plus and it is not a minus. And in our particular collaboration, I think this is what makes our trio extremely unique, because there are three different backgrounds, three different ways of approaching music, yet linked by a same background. I mean, we work together. It is the same school of sound, the same school of understanding the music and the guitar. The approach is there, but all that gets reinforced and enriched from the different backgrounds, different personalities, different traditions, different languages, which add layers and layers of richness and complexity to our performances. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. But if anyone wants to add something, please do.
Yeah, and I would add to that it's a trio that has known already a lot of evolution and of process, because we started playing together while Luca and me were still students of Antigoni, and of course you can imagine that as a student it's not only a big honor, but it's also kind of an exciting setting to be playing with your professor together. And actually what we have then felt is that we needed to mature into becoming a trio of actually three peers, and to find a way to actually rehearse and to dare to all speak up and bring our voices together. And I think that has been a beautiful process with a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for the differences, like Antigoni was saying. Each of us has a different perspective on the thing we are doing, and we believe that we have I think we have a nice way of working on our projects as well. There is place for every voice. There's not one big lead voice, and in the rehearsal process as well, there's always an openness to deviate from the original plan, and it brings us also back to the story of how to deal with the musical material. There is a blueprint, there is a roadmap on the music stand, but each of us feels absolutely free to bring in ideas that make us deviate and maybe land up with a very different version than we thought at first. And I think that this is a very cool and inspiring process that gives us also a lot of motor and a lot of drive to go further in that.
I think one other thing that brings us really together is that the idea that we consider the weaknesses of the guitar its strengths. So, and we do not feel limited to reimagine what our instrument could bring. So we don't really care about the restricted registers. We don't really care about the restricted dynamics. We don't really care about the fact that we cannot play 15 voices at the same time. And sometimes it's a problem. But we take all this as its strengths, and we because one could imagine, what we propose in our CD are orchestral works. So one could imagine, how is it possible that you're actually taking a full orchestral Ravel score, the master of orchestration, and yet you don't feel, the terror of how we're going to put that on the guitars. But the guitar and Ravel has one thing in common, which is color. And there, for example, we thrive. I mean, I think I deviated. So it is a mission of reimagining classical guitar playing.
Αντιγόνη, επειδή θα πω κάμποσα πράγματα, αν θέλεις μετάφρασέ τα εσύ.
Okay.
Ακούγοντας το CD, ήθελα να το πω αργότερα, αλλά νομίζω ότι ήρθε η ώρα να το πω. Εντυπωσιάστηκα από το γεγονός που θα πω. Σταμάτησα να σκέφτομαι που είναι η πρώτη φωνή, που είναι η δεύτερη φωνή, και άρχισα να έχω απέναντί μου μία ορχήστρα που παίζει απλώς αριστουργήματα. Αν θες πες το
No, no, no. He says that he was planning to mention this later in the interview, but he thinks that this is the right time. While he was listening to our CD, what happened to him is that he stopped and he stopped thinking where is the first voice, where is the second voice, where is the first guitar, and instead he felt that he had in front of him an orchestra, that everything just came alive, and he found that spectacular. It's a great
Yeah,
comment.
thank
Thank you very much.
Δεν θυμάμαι επίσης CD κιθάρας να το άκουσα 3 φορές συνεχόμενα. Δεν το θυμάμαι. Μιλώ πολύ
So
σοβαρά.
he does not remember having listened ever to a guitar CD 3 times on their own.
Oh, wow.
Great.
That's a great compliment. That is really, we are very happy.
Thank you.
It's
And it's-
just the truth.
Yeah.
So Luca, did you when you played together, did you stop thinking that Antigoni was your teacher? How do you manage
I
this?
keep reminding him.
No, actually, what Maarten was just mentioning, like 1 minute ago, is exactly the reason why the ensemble works, because we are quite, I would say we're quite fortunate as a generation, probably. But in our case, we're quite fortunate as ex-Antigoni students to have a teacher that the day after your master degree stops being your teacher from her side. After, of course, we always have admiration for our teacher, and we always go back to her experience, and just to have like advices and just to bounce off ideas with her. But the fact of finding, let's say, this comfort in playing together makes you step out of that shyness that you have when you are just a student, and you can propose things. And the bigger change was when you would have Maarten bringing an arrangement and proposing different colors, and Antigoni was just saying, yeah, that's very interesting ideas. Yes, I will do that. Yeah, it's very nice how you do that. Show me in which part of the strings, what is the inclination that you use, what should we do here? That openness. Or when I brought my composition in, that was again just like a canva with several elements inside. Then I would say, here I would like to sound more like a mandolin. And she said, but I'm not very familiar with this technique. Show me, what do you do? And there was a constant exchange. So it was also somehow from our side, like giving back a little bit to Antigoni all that she had transferred, all the knowledge that she had transferred to us during the years that we were a student of hers. And then it is that moment in which you play together that you don't need a lot of words, because you are communicating through the music, that also starts the perception of the friendship in a way, because of course we have 3 different brains, 3 different cultural backgrounds. We don't talk our mother language with each other. So mostly we use English between the 3 of us, which is not our mother tongue. So often you really have to think about what you're saying. And when you play together, all of doubts on any kind of, questions are just put aside, and you can communicate very well with each other.
Θα ήθελα να σχολιάσω, Αντιγόνη, ότι επειδή στο παρελθόν βρέθηκα με κάποιους σπουδαίους μουσικούς στη σκηνή, ότι όταν είσαι στη σκηνή και θεωρώ ότι είναι μια ιερή συνθήκη όλο αυτό, ξεχνάς ποιος είναι ο δάσκαλος, ποιος είναι ο μαθητής. Εκεί πέρα είναι μια απίστευτη έτσι σύνδεση ψυχής, ακόμη και δαχτύλων και χεριών. Θα ήθελα να το πεις.
Έτσι πρέπει να είναι. Now he says that from his own experience, when you found yourself on stage, also part of a group of acclaimed and internationally recognized musicians, the moment there you forget hierarchies, you forget who is the professor, who is the known one, who is, and it becomes a direct communication of soul and of expression, and between the fingers and the body and the brain and the heart is all one. Yes, it is exactly like this. And I really think that the very base is this, is what we go as as humans on the top based on our, weaknesses or insecurities to superstructures. This is where happens all the rest. So yeah, I could be I could be holding my seat as the professor for as long as I have all my students around, but that is not what I believe in. I mean, Volterra Project is a little bit the same thing. My studio, the conservatory, is a little bit the same thing, and I find myself drawing inspiration from my past teachers abroad, where whatever I brought was an exchange. The moment you recognize someone's talent and the way, which for me is the ability to express through music. That's for me is talent. It's not, the fingers or the basic talent of a performer is that, it's the ability to connect directly and to express whatever is inside through the music with your audience. When I recognize talent, I'm there to just be inspired myself, and I learn every day, and this is why I love teaching. And my main goal is not to teach the music necessarily, but to help them find their voice and their way, and to be independent. I really want to see the graduates independent, if possible, the next day of the masters, as Luca said. So it has never been a problem, I think, from my side.
No.
I mean, also for me to just ask all these questions because I'm genuinely curious. So
Yeah.
it's a chance to keep learning.
And actually, I think it reconnects to a very old thought on teaching as well. I mean, I've been feeling this. It's I graduated in 2017 of your class, so it's almost 10 years that we are working together outside of that professor and student relationship, and actually playing together with people is just such an intense way of learning. I have a feeling that I have understood a lot of things you are teaching me much better by just sitting next to you, hearing what the effect was, and the same, of course, with Luca, that just sitting in front of you and seeing how you would deal with certain things and bring certain things out. It's a completely different perspective, and I think that that's an ancient practice of teaching that we have maybe lost a little bit. If you think of a masterclass setup where someone needs to to sit in front of the audience and play and then gets kind of a feedback on that, and there's that kind of working that has nothing to do with the actual exchange that teaching can be, and so that's also inspiring. I think that's something we have been rediscovering also in this project.
So Luca, how do you choose your repertoire?
That's a very interesting question, because we were a little bit counting how many years we are playing together. And actually it was in 2015 the first time, and we played together a little concerts in Belgium. And the repertoire back then happened to be chosen just to have something to play together. But the very first let's say element that was already distinguishing and differentiating us from other probably ensembles was the fact that we would not pick guitar music for our concert. So there was already this like thread, this red line that is from 2015 up to 2025. It's still the same. We happen to choose, first of all, repertoire that we like, and secondly, repertoire that we, while listening to orchestral or piano versions, already feel that would work very well for our ensemble, which has been defined by Marian Romanillos as a guitar sextet and not a guitar trio, because of what you were mentioning before. So the ability of using the guitar polyphony even within an ensemble, because very often you see that guitar 1 is doing the melody, guitar 2 the chords, and guitar 3 the bass. And also by the fact that we happen to have a very large musical taste that bring together during the rehearsals, but also during the choice of the repertoire, a lot of different styles within classical music, because if you think Ravel is not the same as Bernstein, which is not the same as Grieg at all, for the use that they make of rhythm, of colors, and of dynamics, but also outside a little bit the box of classical guitar, because
Λούκα, συγγνώμη που διακόπτω, αλλά μήπως όλοι αυτοί οι διαφορετικοί συνθέτες συντέλεσαν στο να έχουμε ένα τόσο φρέσκο και ένα αποτέλεσμα που, όπως είπα πριν, το άκουσα 2 και 3 φορές συνεχόμενα.
So he says that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but isn't that the very fact of the freshness of the CD and the fact that he listened to it 3 times in a row, that all these composers are very, very different.
Mhm. Indeed. And the thing of the difference between the composers reflects in a way also on the I would say also on the choice of the pieces in a way, because we thought that the guitar is a versatile instrument that can, and it's its versatility that connects its folk roots and the classical use of this instrument in both solo and chamber music works. So the challenge was a little bit what we said at the beginning of the interview, meaning that the intimacy and the use of colors of Ravel could translate very well in an impressionistic approach to the 18 strings of the ensemble, as well as the rhythmical characteristics of all the Latin American and Central American dances that Bernstein uses in West Side Story could really and normally be translated into the classical guitar, which is per definition the instrument that is used also by folk musicians and singer-songwriter in Mexico, in Panama, in Puerto Rico, and in the Andean countries. And I would say all over the world, finally. So it was this universality in a way, and polyfunctional use of the tool instrument that was really I would say the very first step that we made. And then, of course, all the artistic work made on the arrangements and on the playing off stage, so with hours spent in the rehearsing room, made all this music fitting the trio and also alive once on stage.
And then you can also add that all the folk elements of Grieg, I mean, even if it's done, the melodies is done on a single violin, a very folkish violin, I mean, that translates on the guitar beautifully. Or then when you take the Pornografia of the 2 songs we have from Hatzidakis, the guitar is the main, the nylon string guitar is the main accompanying instrument in all our ballads and all our art songs in Greece. So it is actually, this album brings into focus the classical guitar even more than anything else, with all its possibilities and its strengths in a way. And the nylon string curates the sound, brings the nuances, the impressionistic character of our instrument, and it all ties together. And of course, okay, well, the CD has a line which is "Parole in Musica," words in music, and with that we tie together theater, we tie together musical, cabaret, just everything like that. However, it is the narrating power of the instrument behind that brings everything together. Its capacities for color, for orchestrating, for rhythm, for extended techniques that just actually creates a micro orchestra. So our process is actually very, very traditional. And going back a step, actually, I would like to bring into focus that the first piece that we ever recorded, the Valses Poeticos by Enrique Granados, that can be found, of course, not in all the platforms because belongs to a very precious project, which is the Medio Siglo, where we recorded the 4 last instruments that José Romanillos created and kept to his house until after his death. And there we brought this arrangement, we brought the three instruments of Jose together. And in the approach, when we're discussing with Maarten back then, it was because I was playing a lot of lauded and targa on solo instruments. The approach was a little bit the approach of arranging of the school of lauded and targa, which is the guitar, it's its strength highlighted, is not trying to make an arrangement note by note because we have to prove that the guitar can play all the notes and is not lacking anything from the piano, and we just have every bloody note on an extended chord and you go ballistic to play it. Well, actually, less is more,
Yeah.
as Maarten can explain even
Yeah,
better.
no, this is a striking thing because I'm thinking of the mambo of West Side Story, which is it's a very thick orchestration. It's a very complicated piece. There's a lot of layers and it's very brassy. So it's per definition everything that you would expect would be very difficult on the guitar. It's a loud, it's a swinging, it's an extremely fast piece. But there's actually a lot of layers. So when then we make the arrangement and we go check the actual score, there was this nice discovery that there is so much that you have never really heard. And so the intimacy, but also the transparency of the three instruments all of a sudden becomes a very different type of force, because of course the moment that you really start hearing all the layers, you get the full polyrhythmic effect, while the orchestra maybe as a form of contradiction, having so many instruments also starts sometimes maybe over sounding that, so that all the layers add up to just become one compact mass. And so sometimes the opposite also happens. And this is, I mean, it's a century-old love story, this relationship between the orchestra and the orchestral works and the guitar on the other side. Yes, it is a folk instrument. It is also an instrument that composers have very often searched to. Are we out of the?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's also an instrument that composers have very often searched to imitate. If you think of like bel canto, Italian bel canto operas like Bellini, you would always have the aria that is actually accompanied in a very guitaristic way to imitate the serenata. And actually, the curious thing is if you then pick up the guitar and just play a literal translation of that back, it is almost surprising how well that works. And so when Ravel is trying to depict in Les Dronettes, the third movement from Amerlois, is trying to depict these little creatures that are playing their in the mini plucked instruments, he needs to find ways to do that actually in the orchestra, and he gives the line to a piccolo, and you would have the strings jumping in with a lot of percussion. But it seems in one way or another that it becomes much more realistic and even more telling that story when you actually put it on 18 plucked strings, which is almost logical. So it's a love story in a lot of directions. I think the composers that maybe were not able to write for the guitar, or it was not done to actually write for the guitar, or you simply wouldn't hear it in an orchestral structure, but they looked for ways to include all of those colors also in the orchestra. So I don't think it's only us imitating the orchestral colors. It's often already the orchestra trying to integrate also those unique plucked colors, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Είμαι πολύ χαρούμενος που απαντήσατε στις 3-4 επόμενες ερωτήσεις μου χωρίς να τις κάνω.
So he says he's extremely happy that we answered to the 3-4 questions that we have.
We're always...
Να σημειώσω όμως ότι το άψογο παίξιμό σας από πλευράς τεχνικής είναι παρόν, ακούγεται. Εγώ να σημειώσω την σπουδαία αίσθηση του ρυθμού που έχετε σαν τρίο. Νομίζω ότι εκεί είναι το μυστικό. Αν θες πες.
Says that so we answered on 3 or 4 questions that he was planning to ask. But he said that he would like to note that to draw the attention that is our exquisite playing on technical level and on rhythmic level that actually brings alive all these elements that we're discussing. And
Thank
yeah.
you.
Ευχαριστούμε.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Πριν λίγο αναφέρατε μία λέξη, the music platforms. What make you to make a CD? A physical structure.
The object with the whole that nobody knows anymore. Well, actually, if we ask this question, we can also ask the next question, what made us do an LP? Because we actually did a vinyl right before. And I think that that comes from our common desire to preserve sound and the quality of sound, that it is the first thing that you absolutely erase when you go and listen only to platforms directly from a computer, or even worse, from a telephone, which has become a little bit the curse of our time. And with being able to put a CD in a player and have it connected with a good audio system, or to put a vinyl or even a mediocre turntable and have it connected, there it's a whole different ceremony and a whole different routine. You take the time out of your really busy day. You don't just stay in your car while in the traffic trying to listen. You take the time, you sit back, and you really have an experience. I mean, it's just our world is so fast and it's becoming so superficial that the elements that brought us to music in the beginning, in the first place, we start missing and losing one after the other. And I think it also, sound is one of the most difficult things to teach, because it is a constant no education of the ear to dive into, and to be able to associate, and to be able to dream, and to travel. How can you do that if you just have the earflow, the walking or driving, trying to listen to, I don't know. So that was I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And it links us back, I mean, apart from the experience of the listening and the quality of the sound, it links back to a ritual indeed that also has brought so many people into the classical guitar. I think that we are in great need, well, we think that we are in great need of a return to that experience of linking to the classical guitar sound. If we mentioned Romanios before, his life work was to dig into and discover more and understand what the Spanish guitar sound would really be. For him, that was a question of not living in Spain and reconnecting to his entire identity and as a human being by building a Spanish guitar and looking for the sound that reconnected him to his youth. I think that if you think of the impact that someone like Segovia or a Julian Bream had, where you would have halls full of people that maybe had never heard the guitar, and they would just fall in love and go dedicate a lot of their life to that instrument. It's the only thing that is always mentioned, apart from maybe the arrangements that they did and their charisma, but it's the sound. People just
Yeah. And I really think that this is basically what sets our instrument apart, and its biggest strength. Because if you think, I mean, okay, we have a limited amount of registers. Our instrument is not loud. It's just cracks if you take it to a different country with a different. I mean, it's full of problems. It's just, the technicality of it is a difficult instrument to play, really, as a medium. Guitar, it's one of the most difficult instruments to convey the music, if you choose the guitar to convey. So, and what at least it makes it all worth it, dedicate a whole life to it, I really think is the sound.
yeah.
I mean, otherwise,
And actually, that brings to mind another thing, that is that in our approach, also for this album, in making an arrangement, I think that you can strive to approach the version that you know. You can strive to retranslate the version for piano or for orchestra that you know. And in a way, I think that all of that are inspirations, but we never strive to imitate. We never strive to have a piano version on 3 guitars, because indeed you want to retranslate it to the guitar, so you can actually have a different take on it and a different perspective on it. And yes, you include those 3 extremely human instruments full of their own problems and their own limitations, like the 3 of us as well. That's a famous sextet. And so this is important that you respect that, and that also in the essence of our translation work, there is that. I mean, where we want to draw the other things into our world in a way as well.
Συμφωνώ απολύτως, και μάλιστα σε μία συζήτηση κάποια φορά που έκανα μεταξύ κιθαριστών, υπήρχε το θέμα, μα εδώ πρέπει να μιμηθούμε το πιάνο, και του λέω γιατί. Εμείς είμαστε κιθάρα, γιατί να μιμηθούμε το πιάνο ή το φλάουτο ή οτιδήποτε. Και να πω και κάτι που δεν ξέρω αν θεωρηθεί βλάσφημο, μου αρέσει πολύ περισσότερο να ακούω τη σακών από κιθάρα παρά από το βιολί. Μου αρέσει πολύ περισσότερο.
So he says that in a conversation that he had with other colleagues, there was a mention at one time, but here we have to imitate the piano. He goes, why do we have to imitate the piano, to imitate the flute? And he says, I may go as far as being say a blasphemous thing, but I prefer the chaconne on the guitar than on the violin. Us too. So yeah.
So, can we talk about the productions, the days that you were in the studio?
In the studio.
Yeah.
So I can that the time comes to bring the fourth member of this experience and this wonderful result out, which is John Taylor, the amazing British engineer that is a legend, basically, and is one of the most humble and sweet and fantastic human beings. And working with him, for me, was a fast education project process in 3 days. He was incredible because he had his ears are spectacular, but he's also a very fine musician himself. He was a guitarist, and on the top of that, he has worked with all the instruments. So he had recorded the Valses Poeticos with a pianist. He had recorded Ma Mère Gloire with piano and with the orchestra. So he brought into the studio those ears that could just give us a feedback on all levels. And it was incredible. At time, extremely demanding and very frustrating, I have to admit, but it was all an amazing experience. John was the reason why actually the recording sounds like that. And yeah.
And his aesthetic vision is also so interesting, you know, in a world where you can make a CD with about 2 billion edits and every note is pasted to another note. His vision is very much that he wants it to be as natural as possible, as both in the recording process. It's an extremely simple setup that he used. He's very precise in the actual distance. So we have nice pictures of John just approaching Romanillo's guitar of Antigoni with his meter like this, so that he would have, of course, the correct distances. But for the rest, he wanted it to give the feeling that you were really there. So he wouldn't want to hide the natural sides of that, you know, not get completely rid of all the sounds that are also around the guitar sound, no? And the same also for the editing. That's also why the recording process was sometimes painstaking, because he wanted to not fall into micro editing, which for him would destroy completely the natural feel of the music. So this was also challenging, and we needed to completely trust him on that. And luckily we did so, because you would probably not have that feeling of just listening to a natural concert if we would have worked in this kind of patchwork CD making, which happens a lot. And this also makes that it's not a perfect recording, you know. You could go there with a micro lens and try to edit out things, but together with John Taylor, we are also now convinced that would only diminish the actual effect of the CD.
Make the result.
It's a marvelous recording for me. It's a marvelous one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're very proud of it too, huh?
So, Luca, πού βρίσκεστε τώρα και τι κάνετε εκεί?
Where are you right now? What are you doing here? There.
So we are finishing our stay at Tucson in Arizona, as you can see from the pics behind us, after a couple of days on the road. We arrived in Phoenix a week ago. Then we went to New Mexico by car, and so we could appreciate all the spectacular landscapes. And we played a concert there. Then we played another concert yesterday here in Tucson. Then we will play another concert on Tuesday in Phoenix. And in between, we did a lot of outreach with young, talented students from different schools and college over here. And this part of the tournée in Southwest, USA Southwest, is like the second stop of our longer US tournée that we started last May on the East Coast. which was also the month in which the Parole in Musica came out. So we'll be here mostly twice a year for the next 2 years, touching different states. And it's a very nice feeling to see that all that you also said and commented about our album, but we heard almost the same words in different countries, both in Europe and here in US, and with always the same feeling, both on the concert setting and on the recording side. So the honesty that Maarten was talking about, the recording, it's still there in our live show, and that's what we can actually use to sell better our concerts. No, we're having a great time.
Yeah, we're having a great time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Antigoni, did you find a warm audience there?
Absolutely. America is known for that. It's incredible. Last night actually happened something that I haven't had, or maybe if I had, it's a long time ago, that it was a standing ovation in the middle of the street. So they just, after tonight, the entire audience rose, applause, and we didn't finish the program. Usually they do that at the end or the end of the first half. But no, they just couldn't hold it, I guess. And it was fantastic because it took us by surprise. So we finished Tonight by Bernstein, and the whole audience was on their feet, screaming and applauding. And then they resat to we do America, and then we do Luca's piece. So they're very immediate, and they're not afraid of expressing it. In my travels and my career, I've had that also with Russia. In Europe, we're a little bit more, we're tighter. I don't know. It is just something that I don't know what it is. Of course, that's changing. I mean, it's just depending on the country, depending on the setting,
Depends on the
depending even on
evening
the city,
sometimes.
the evening sometimes. But in America, audiences are very appreciative, and
Very generous.
very generous, very expressive, and they're not afraid of saying it.
Yeah.
They don't. What they feel, they express, and it's lovely.
Yeah. Τώρα τα επόμενα σχέδιά σας θα ήθελα να μου πει όποιος θέλει.
So, of course, we have ahead of us 3 years of tours in the United States. We're, of course, reaching out to festivals in Europe. It is my dream to bring the boys to Greece. So it's one thing to play Hadzidakis on the road and another thing to play it in Greece.
Cool.
So I hope that will happen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're already starting thinking of a next project. And by project is not necessarily a recording project. Most likely will end up to be recorded, but it's just slowly putting the next program together. And even though Parole in Musica started from the pieces and then somehow were drawn to that line of storytelling, with this next one, shall I say something? Or is
Say
it
it.
surprise? I can't wait because I just
You get a
love
premiere, huh?
Yeah.
this is a premiere. Nobody knows about it. So our next idea is to bring a program around a carnival and the idea of masquerade. So there, what we are thinking of starting already for the tour of this coming spring is the Masquerade Suite of Khachaturian, which is Armenian music, Armenian composer, extremely folk-inspired, very big splash, big orchestral sound. So that would be the one, is the Khachaturian Masquerade Suite. Then is the Danse Macabre of Saint-Saëns. Then is Pulcinella by Stravinsky, a selection, because it's really long. And of course, what we cannot absolutely wait to
My
put our hands
absolute
on
favorite.
is the Schumann.
All these are great goals, very difficult ones.
Very difficult. And then the last one, which is, is the cherry on the top, is the Schumann's Papillon.
Carnival.
Yeah.
Carnival,
Yeah.
not the
Different.
Carnival of Schumann, which is a piano. It's like a half-hour multi-movement piano piece.
I forgot to ask you about the Volterra project itself.
Yeah.
The Volterra
Tell us.
Project that actually gave the name, because in the
Yeah.
beginning we were actually playing there only. We would meet in the summer, the whole year would work around Brussels, but just a month before Volterra, we'll just put a program together to do a fundraising. Volterra this coming summer becomes 20 years old. And
Brilliant.
it's unbelievable because it started on a year-to-year base. And in the beginning, when myself and Michele, my husband, were the basic organizers, and it was really, really difficult. So we have been lucky that the younger generation joined in, and after several years, when Maarten and Luca joined in, the whole task became a lot easier, and we could just look ahead of 1 year later than the year next, you know. So reaching 20 years is a milestone. And this year, Volterra will not open its doors to students, so we will not be accepting students, but we're going to be doing a symposium, basically inviting back a selective group of alumni we've been following their careers, we've been following the evolution of those 100+ alumni that we've been, no more, 200,
Yeah.
alumni all over the world. And we're reaching out to those that, you know, we have felt that the Volterra experience changed their life, redirected their goals, opened new doors, and they followed on it, and they've built careers that are completely out of the box. They don't fall into that same, super walked path of what classical guitar is based on, 100 years ago standards and expectations.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a symposium. Our guest artist will be Dusan Bogdanovic. We're going to jump on stage with all the alumni in different kind of chamber formations, duos, trios, quartets, quintets, and roundtable conversations. They will be presenting their work. So it's just a retrospective, just looking back before we move forward.
But that being said, the traditional ingredients of the Volterra project will be there. So we will be together on a hill in Tuscany with a very tight community for probably 7 days this year. Usually it's 10 days, where we eat together, where we play together, practice together. And there is this kind of continuous exchange, because that's what makes it so unique. There is a limited amount of students who come over. We have a faculty that doesn't only encompass guitar players, but there is also a dancer, there is an actor, and they also share their expertise. The different pillars will be there. We will, of course, be working a lot of guitar together in the form of chamber music this year. There will be, however, the morning sessions on physiology, to just keep in mind that our body is our first instrument. And then we will also be talking an adapted version of music business, which are always the 3 big pillars of the Volterra project.
So,
and that in between the delicious pastas that for once maybe not will Michele will not
Michele will not be doing, Yes, so.
Πλησιάζοντας το τέλος της εξαιρετικής αυτής παρουσίας σας εδώ, αν υπάρχει κάτι άλλο που παρέλειψα να ρωτήσω, που θέλετε να προσθέσετε.
So we're approaching the end of this wonderful dialogue and presence. And is there anything else that we would like to add?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
This is our more yes. I'm learning from the best when it comes to. No, I mean it's a very warm invite. That if your audience has been listening to this interview and found us in any way nice people, because we are really nice people, then we very warmly invite them to look us up on Facebook. We have a page. We are also on Instagram. So on Instagram, we try to also keep everyone up to date on where we are playing and when. And you get beautiful pictures of cactuses in these days. So that's another reason. Of course, you can also visit our website, which probably you will put in the description.
I will embed all these links into the description of the video.
That is wonderful, yeah.
Okay.
Because on the website you can also order the CD directly from us, which is of course always a nice support to us as artists. However, the PAROLE in MUSICA album is out on all streaming platforms to be listened to, and we're always very happy, genuinely happy to hear feedbacks or ideas.
And a plus, I mean, it's really not easy to send signed copies to America or China, but to Europe, we definitely, all the copies that you will be receiving from us will be personally signed and dedicated. So just one more point.
Okay. Εγώ από την πλευρά μου θα πω με πάση ειλικρίνεια ότι έχω ακούσει αυτό το CD, ενθουσιάστηκα όταν το άκουσα και θα έλεγα θα προέτρεπα όλους τους κιθαριστές αλλά και τους λάτρες της κιθάρας αλλά και της μουσικής γενικότερα. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό αυτό.
Είναι
Δεν
πολύ
είναι ένα CD που αφορά μόνο την κιθάρα. Είναι ένα CD που αφορά όλους τους φιλόμουσους, όλους αυτούς τους ανθρώπους που θέλουν να ξανακούσουν πολύ καλή μουσική και να μην περνάνε τη μουσική σκρολάροντας στο YouTube, στα μικρά βίντεο. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό. Stop scrolling and listen
And-
music. So,
Exactly. This is the motto of the day. Thank you, Γιώργο.
σας ευχαριστώ. Thank you very much for this interview. Θα ήθελα να το κάνουμε και στο μέλλον. Αντιγόνη, σου έχω πει και
Βεβαίως.
προσωπικά, το κανάλι είναι ανοιχτό ιδιαίτερο σε σένα αλλά και σε όλους τους σημαντικούς καλλιτέχνες.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Σε ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Και σας ευχαριστώ και εγώ από την καρδιά μου.
Πολύ ωραία. Να έχεις μια καλή Κυριακή. Και εμείς πάμε να διδάξουμε αυτή τη στιγμή.
Καλό μάθημα.
Να είστε καλά. Χαρά.
Αγαπητοί φίλοι του Κιθαρολόγιου, καλή συνέχεια σε ό,τι κάνετε.